yo, Neil, how's it going, man? We're live.
What's going on, brother?
Cheers for coming on today, man. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time as always.
Yeah,
Obviously, I know you've
yeah,
slightly got your hands full. But
yeah,
yeah.
man. I'm excited.
So for those that are watching that might not know who you are, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself and what you're about.
So my name is Neil. I'm an amateur strongman competitor over here stateside. I live in Florida, and I'm 30. Uh, yeah, and I do it. It's just a hobby, really. I'm not a pro yet. The way the pros works is like the guys you see on TV, like World's Strongest Man. All those guys are pros, and even most of them don't even do it for a living. Some of them have sponsorships and stuff that will help pay for them to do those contests. But it's a real niche sport, so there's really not a whole lot of money in it. Not like football players or basketball players, who can make a living playing this. Like we kind of mostly just do it for fun, for guts and glory, so to speak. So yeah, man. And I've been doing it I'm in my fourth year doing it now, and I love it. I did United States Amateur Nationals back in June, and I placed second overall and qualified for my first pro level show. So once the promoters give me the information on that, then I'll be going over to a pro show, and hopefully I can hang with the big boys.
Cool, man. So what got you into training in the first place? And did you always? Well, you obviously didn't always know you was wanting to lift weights, but did you start at like
All right.
16 and then go from there?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, the big sport over here is American football, especially where I'm from. My high school had a big, their football team was like a football school. Like, all the money in the school went towards football. So, like, we had a weight room, and I started trying to play football, and, like, I didn't really like playing football. It's hot. You got a bunch of guys hitting you, coaches yelling and cussing at you. I really didn't like it, and I wanted to because I'm a big dude. Everyone's like, oh, you should play football. Or I really liked being in the weight room and lifting weights. Like during the off season, I was like, yeah, let's play football because it really meant let's go lift weights. So, I did that for a little bit in high school, and then I threw shot put too. I did track and field, so I kind of I was throwing something heavy, so kind of like the humble beginnings, And I was pretty good at throwing the shot put, and then I went to college, and I didn't play sports in college or anything because I went to a culinary arts school. And I kind of like dropped off the map for a little bit, like didn't go to the gym or whatever. And then I started having some health issues. My blood sugar was getting real high. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was working a lot and not eating right, not living right. So then I started going back to the gym. And I was a big dude and kind of strong. And I was in like a regular gym, like a 24-hour fitness kind of thing. And one of the guys who was one of the personal trainers there, he was an amateur strongman. And he seen me in there deadlifting one day. And he's like, hey, you're pretty strong. You should give this a try. Have you ever heard of Strongman? I was like, oh, is that kind of like the dudes on TV who pull fire trucks? He's like, yeah, come try it out, right? Everyone says the same thing. When you tell them you say the word Strongman, and because it sounds weird, like you say strong man. It doesn't sound like the name of a sport. It sounds like like a weird way to say like you lift weights, right? It's like that sounds real primitive, like be strong man,
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, everyone says the same thing, strong man. What is that like? Is that like lifting rocks? I'm like, exactly. So he had me out, right? So he had me out. Him and his boys, they would train out of this guy's garage. This guy named Rich, his garage. He had this big garage, and he had all his stuff in there, and they were all training. And it's just these big, meat-headed dudes lifting up these giant logs and rocks and shit. And I wanted to try it, and I hated it. I was terrible at it, and it hurt. It was so painful. So they don't tell you about that in strongman. Is like in strongman, there's like a level of pain that you have to accept. It's like the barrier of entry. Like your forearms are gonna hurt, your back's gonna hurt, your knees are gonna hurt. You're like, oh man, like does this get any better? And they're like, nah, you just get stronger. So I hated it. I was like, man, I'm never doing that again. I'm just gonna go back to the gym. And then like I thought about it, like it like bothered me for a couple months because like every time I would like lift heavy, I was like, man, like I'm doing okay in the gym, but I know there's some animals in this garage that are killing the game right now, and I'm like, maybe I should try it again. You know what I mean? So I ended up finding myself a coach a few months later, and he showed me the ropes, and I started competing. I did my first contest in March of 2015, and I won. I won outright, and so everyone was like, "Damn, like if you won your first show, you're gonna be pretty good." And so yeah, I've been doing it ever since.
So who inspired you? Like who's like your idols and things like that in the sport? Who do you look up to and think, Man, he's killing it.
Uh,
Like I wouldn't mind being like that bad
yeah,
boy.
yeah. So like everyone says the Mountain, and like I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, so I like the Mountain. He's definitely killing the game. Um, I like going back and watching some of the old school World's Strongest Man guys, like Magnus or Magnuson. Mariusz Pudzianowski he's got the record for 5 World's Strongest Man titles. He was really good. But yeah, man, there's so many good guys in the sport, past, present, and future. It's kind of hard for me to nail down just like one guy. Like they're all, I like Brian Shaw. He's the American. He's won 4 times World's Strongest Man, and he's won Arnold a few times. And he's got this level of just like professionalism when it comes to the sport. Everyone always thinks that strongman, power lifters, and all these like weightlifting sports is just a bunch of dumb meatheads who just like go out and lift rocks. Like, there's a lot of strategy involved in the sport. There's a lot of like, you have to know how to train smart because you might be training for a heavy contest from anywhere between like 12 to 15, 16 weeks sometimes. And you got to learn how to like train in a way that like you're not going to get hurt in training so you can show up healthy to the contest and do well and or win. Sometimes it's not even the strongest guy who wins on the day. It might just be the healthiest guy because all the strong dudes get hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's funny because obviously within sort of the strongman world, for people that are slightly uneducated, they're just thinking, yeah, man, these guys who just take loads of steroids, fucking jack themselves up, and then
right.
they just go lift weights. Like they don't even train, man.
Yeah.
They're just steroided up. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just like, there's actually a little bit more to it than that, like you have actually
Right,
got to
right.
train.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing about steroids is that, like, so for the most part, the general public doesn't understand the way steroids work because they just assume, like, they've watched Rocky IV or Captain America, and they're like, oh, just, like, put a needle in the guy's arm, and now all of a sudden he's jacked and runs a, 4-minute mile and can lift a truck. Like, it doesn't work that way. So, like, all steroids are is just it's an androgynous testosterone that helps your body recover better. So, really, if you take a bunch of steroids, you have to have a training stimulus to make you have something to recover from. So really, you kind of got to train harder if you take steroids. Otherwise, you're kind of just wasting it. So like everyone's like, oh, these big dumb meatheads, they just load up with steroids and they can do all this stuff. It's like there's no steroid on earth that's going to make you pull a train. Like there's no magic pill that's going to be like, all right, now you got to get this 450-pound stone up onto that ledge over there. It's like, wait, what? The steroids ain't gonna do that for me. So, now, like there are certain sports where like steroids are definitely like frowned upon, and I'm a big believer in that like steroids should be allowed in some sports, but not in all sports. So like I think in strongman, powerlifting, strength sports like that, like let them juice up to the gills because one, like you're putting on a show for the people, so you want to have the biggest, baddest dudes out there putting on a show. Like no one wants to see a bodybuilding contest where those guys look like regular people. Like if people go to see bodybuilding contests, they want to see guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath, and it's like, oh my God, look at these freaks, look at these guys, like it's a show, it's a spectacle, right? Like no one wants to go and see like the thing they're used to seeing, right? So, but then like MMA and boxing, like. Nah, don't let them take steroids because like you could end someone's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's no longer just about the competition. Now it's about like, like you're taking someone's life in your hands. Like American football. Nah, don't take steroids. Like you can run into somebody at 55 miles per hour head first and snap their neck. Like nah, like that becomes a safety issue. But then like baseball, like over here in America, like. They had the whole steroid scandal, and the baseball players stopped taking steroids, and now like baseball is boring as hell. Let those guys take steroids. Let them hit that ball 500 feet out of the park. Like it seems to me like the whole steroid witch hunt was kind of I don't know, like unfounded. Like why are you guys going after baseball? Like what's wrong with a bunch of big dudes with giant forearms like smashing balls out of the park? Like they're not hurting nobody. So which is interesting too, because like. Being in the sport of strongman, like strongman is what you would call like a dirty sport. Like there's steroids in it and there's no testing. Like across the board, there's no testing. So like there have been guys who have been clean. There have been guys who haven't been clean. We don't really use the word clean because it's not against the rules. So it's just kind of like, oh, you're on or you're not. And like me personally, like I don't take steroids. I just haven't gotten to that point yet where I felt like I needed to. Like I've had a lot of progress not taking them, and I've been continuing to get stronger and get better. So for me, on the one point, it's been like, okay, well, like steroids does mess with your health a little bit. Like it shoots up your blood pressure. You're gonna start taking care of yourself a little bit better. And being a bigger guy, like I kind of already have issues with that. Like I've had high blood pressure since I was a kid, so I'm like, man, if I start taking steroids, like I gotta be careful. And two, like you just cost money. Like I said, like we don't really make money in the sport, especially as amateurs. Like I got a house, I got a mortgage to pay, like I got a kid to feed. So like for me, that's just up to this point in my training, it hasn't been something that I've needed. But like as a clean athlete, I don't have any problem with guys who do take it. Like I've never ever felt like, oh man, like the playing field's not level and it's not fair. It's just kind of like, all right, like they do that and I don't, and that's their choice. It's my choice. And like at the end of the day, the strongest man will win. Like I've beat guys that have been on steroids, and I've been beat by guys that have been on steroids, and never once was I like, oh, that was the steroids. Like I don't subscribe to that thought process. To me, it's like, all right, who worked harder, who had the better game plan, the better strategy, who was stronger, you know? So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
kind of my 2 cents.
it's strange because when you really think about it, steroids are not massively bad for you. Like, obviously, there are health implications, but realistically, I think it's just that whole everyone looks at it like as, oh, you're a cheat. You took this.
Right.
That's why you won.
Again. And then so in my opinion, like every sport has rules to it. Like above all, I consider myself a sportsman, like I'm an athlete. Like I want to be able to beat you, but I want to be able to beat you fair and square. So if the rules of your sport don't say that there's anything wrong with taking steroids, like strongman, bodybuilding, like they don't test, then have at it. But then like if you're in the Olympics or you're in the UFC and the rules clearly state like, hey, there's no steroid use allowed here, then like, and you take steroids, well then you're a cheater. Like, and that just goes, to me, that goes down to ethics. It no longer becomes about did he or didn't he take something that may or may not be performance enhancing. It's like, well, you broke the rules. Like you should, I personally believe like in sport, you should play by the rules. But then like, I kind of get it. Like guys are trying to get a competitive edge, you know, like, in my opinion, it's like there's so many sports out there that don't test, that don't have any rules against steroids. So it's like if you're going to go out of your way to cheat in a sport that does test, like I hate to say that you're a piece of shit. Like you're a cheater. You are a cheater. You're exactly what you are. You know, so it's like play by the rules. There's a bunch of guys out there who do play by the rules and do really well. There's no reason you couldn't either. And if you feel like you didn't get that competitive edge, like maybe you just need to assess yourself and be like, you know what, maybe like I'm not good enough to be at the top. Or like, what else am I doing? Like, you know, you had mentioned that maybe you want to talk about nutrition or recovery or stuff. Like, you know, say I'm a football player and these other guys are just better than me. And it's like, oh, they're all on steroids. It's like, well, maybe not. You know, you don't really know that. But also, like, those guys have a nutritionist and they eat really clean. And they're training 5 days a week and they're doing their recovery work and they're getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep and, like, they're dedicated to the lifestyle. Like, versus I'm over here, like, you know, chowing down on a cheeseburger and milkshake and going, oh, why is everyone kicking my ass? Why am I so slow and fat? And it's like, well, maybe you need to tighten up everything else in order to become a better athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, sometimes it's like your motivation towards the sport as well, rather than like, for example, like you just said, you know, maybe they're looking for that easy option because they don't want to put in the hard work. And I'm not saying steroids are an easy option, but it's that psychological side of things, isn't it?
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like steroids may not necessarily be the easy option, but for that lazy person who's just kind of like, okay, I can do all this hard work over here, or I can just do steroids. In their mind, I can just do the steroids and bypass all that hard work. Yeah. But then again, like, you know, we say in the sport all the time, like, even if there was no steroids in strongman, like, all the top guys would still be the top guys. Because, like, the guys who are doing all that extra work are still going to be better than the guys who aren't doing all that extra work. Like, that's true regardless if steroids are not involved in the sport, you know? So.
Yeah, so what advice would you give to someone who's, like, aspiring to become, like, to get into the strongman world? What sort of advice would you give them, like, in the sense of training and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is actually find a coach. Strongman is kind of a hard sport to just figure out on your own because it involves a lot more technique and, like, if you mess up, like, you could actually, like, result in serious injuries. Like, there's a difference between, like, going into the gym and, like, running on a treadmill and then like you see a punching bag and maybe like you hit the punching bag, like that's relatively safe, you know. But like you walk into like a strongman gym and you've never lifted a stone before, and you try to pull that thing off the ground and don't know what you're doing, like you drop that stone on your foot, like you lose a toe, you know. So first thing I would say is definitely find a coach. That's what I did when I started. I had a coach who showed me the ropes, and then from there, you know, like I learned how to do it on my own. Like I no longer, you know, like him and I are just good friends now. He's no longer my coach. And find a good group of guys to train with. Strongman is something that's really hard to do by yourself, not just from a physical standpoint, because it's nice to have people help you set up all the equipment and stuff, but also from just like a mental, social standpoint, like having a good group of guys to push you, guys and girls, you know, not to be gender specific or anything, guys and girls to train with that work really hard, that'll push you, that motivate you like a team, you know. One thing that a lot of people don't know about strongman is that it's actually a weight class sport, just like boxing and MMA. So like you guys always see the big boys on TV on World's Strongest Man. They're, you know, that's super heavyweight. But on the amateur level, we actually have guys and girls, lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight classes. You know, you have some athletes as light as 114 pounds. And then we also have age classes too on the amateur level. We've got masters athletes, which is anybody over 40. And there's a second masters class with anyone over 50. So strongman is definitely not an exclusive sport that's just reserved for the big boys. Like me, like I'm a strongman coach, and I have about 8 athletes that train under me. You know, one of them's a 48-year-old man, or I'm sorry, he's 49 now. I want to take that from him. One of them is a 140-pound girl. You know, some of them are, you know, heavily tattooed, you know, diesel mechanics, and one of them is a physicist. You know, so like strongman, it's as a sport on an amateur level, it's, you know, there's a lot of different types of people, body types, different walks of life, stuff like that. So, you know, if you're interested in getting into it, like I would say, don't be intimidated by what you see on TV and think like I can't do that. Find yourself a coach and find yourself a group of people to train with. And then from there, man, just like have fun with it. You know, like I would tell people, if you're going to do strongman, sign up for a contest even if you feel like you're not ready.
Yeah.
Sign up for a contest that's like, you know, I would say like no less than 8 weeks away at the earliest. I wouldn't suggest someone jumping into a contest cold with no preparation. I would say like at least 8 weeks. Give yourself at least 8 weeks to train for a contest, and just jump in and see how you like it, and just have fun and enjoy it. And, not everybody is going to win. You know, unfortunately there's only one winner. But like a lot of the times, it's not even about winning. It's about your own personal goals. You know, like for that 50-year-old dude who just needs to have a more active lifestyle, it could be the success of like being able to move again. You know. Or you know what I mean? So,
or just not even finishing last. Do you know what I mean? Like, not finishing last.
That's what, you know. It's funny you say that. Like, so I just promoted a contest last weekend, so it's been a full week since it was my first promotion. So like, I've been an athlete, but now I put on a show, and a couple of my athletes competed, and we had all kinds of people there. We had a 53-year-old lady. We had like 6 guys over the age of 40, which is crazy. You never see that many guys at a local show that are master's age. There's just not a lot of older guys doing it. You know, we had guys and girls, lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. And one of my athletes, he's a novice. So that's another thing people don't know is that like there's almost always at a local show a novice level for people who have never competed before, or the weights are a little bit lighter. It's a really good way for them to get their feet wet. And so one of my athletes, it's his second contest, and in his first contest he took that last. Second contest, he was like middle of the pack, and we were like, "Hey, you didn't win, but like you weren't dead last. Like we're obviously making progress, you know." So it was a win in our book, you know. We're like, "Hey, little by little, we're like, slow, steady steps," and I think that's another thing that, you know, with strength sports, everything's all about like raw power and who can lift the most weight, and it's a very like beat your chest, meat heady, you know, environment. But really, it's a marathon, man. Like if you want to be successful, you got to be able to play the long game, be able to stay healthy for longer amounts of time, and slowly progress to getting stronger and getting better in the sport. I've seen, even in the short amount of time that I've been in the sport, I've seen a lot of guys that are firecrackers, man. They get really big and strong in the sport, and they blow up quick, and then they fizzle out real fast too. They got there too fast, and they either get hurt or they burn out or what have you, you know. So
we're in the sense of in the sense of the direction of where the sport's going, do you think it's like moving forward? Do you think there's getting more money in the sport now? Because obviously over here we have the World's Strongest Man gets broadcast on TV on like Channel 5 or something like that. And, I tuned in and watched it last year with like a few of the athletes and things like that. So I think it is gaining more exposure. But do you personally feel it because you're obviously in that environment?
Yeah, so like it's funny because around the world, strongman, like World's Strongest Man, is taken a little bit more seriously than it here is in the U.S. Like because I think, like I said, American football being the big sport over here, anyone who's big and strong, usually we tell them go play football. We don't tell them to go lift weights, right, or go be a strongman or a powerlifter. Whereas around the world, especially in Europe, that is a part of your guys' culture. So like on the higher levels, I definitely think it's getting more popular in that aspect. But here in the U.S., on the amateur level, it's blowing up. Like the smaller, whereas like from what I understand, amateur strongman isn't that big overseas compared to like what pro strongman is. So like for example, when I went to nationals back in June, there was 400 athletes there, which is gigantic for an amateur competition. Like I mean, my show that I just ran, I had 40 athletes, and that's considered a pretty good amateur show. To have 400 athletes at amateur nationals is like, oh wow, this sport's getting traction. And like I said, guys, girls, teenagers, old ladies, old men, whatever. So I definitely think the sport is growing. I think a lot of it is largely attributed to, and a lot of people won't like this, but CrossFit, because CrossFit's gotten so big and so popular. People have been exposed to things like barbells and giant tire flips and stuff like that. They see it on TV with the CrossFit games, and you see CrossFit athletes that are 180 pounds soaking wet, and no one looks at them and go, oh, I can't do that because they're too big. They look at them and like, okay, like they're freak athletes, but they're regular people.
Yeah.
So CrossFit has largely attributed to the success of other strength sports where people start CrossFit, they get a barbell in their hand, they show an affinity towards strength, and then one of their CrossFit buddies go, hey, have you ever tried Strongman? We've got these stones in the back corner here, or we've got these, we've got this giant tire you can flip outside. And so, and then even like at the CrossFit Games, the last few years, you've seen some things they've been doing that are like, hey, that's a strongman implement. That's a straight up strongman implement. That's not like they flipped the tire. Like everyone flips tires. Like no, like they just did a heavy yoke carry. Like that was made by Rogue, who is a strongman company. And it's like, oh crap, the sport's getting some exposure. So yeah, I think it's growing. I think for us over here in the U.S., for it to get more popular, we need to get not more athletes involved, but get more fans involved. Like, I think the sport is going to need a little bit more corporate sponsorship. Maybe someone put some money into the sport that would be able to like put on a strongman contest at an arena. Like for example, over in Britain, like you guys have, there's a strongman promotion over there called Ultimate Strongman, run by Glenn Ross, and he puts on shows in giant arenas. I can't remember, because I'm not too familiar with Great Britain. I think Manchester Arena is like where you put on a show. Yeah, it's like a 10,000 people. Yeah, and I'm like, like we can't get 10,000 people to watch Strongman here. Like at Strongman Nationals, there was more athletes than there were spectators. So like if we could somehow get a contest over here that could draw a crowd, it would help the sport grow. Because obviously, like as a sponsor, I care that people are going to come spend money. Like if I'm Budweiser and I'm trying to sponsor an event, I want to make sure that there's going to be enough people there to buy Budweiser. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and then overseas, I mean, it seems like it's pretty popular overseas. I think it would just again have to be someone would have to pump some money into the sport. Whether it was like a fan, someone who's a fan of the sport that's got some extra change, or if it was just more athletes who maybe advertise the sport a little bit better and got more people to come out, So I think, but the sport is definitely growing. Even since I started, it's gotten so much bigger. Now it's not rare for people to have heard of strongman, especially like with guys like the Mountain.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Or, like everyone knows who the Mountain is because everyone knows Game of Thrones, and then it's like, oh, that big dude who lifts rocks. Oh, he's a strongman. He's the world's strongest man. Like, oh yeah, okay. So like people know what it is. Whereas when I first started, everyone's like, what's that again? So even like seeing that, I know the sport's growing for sure.
Yeah, like I do the sport that the guy from Game of Thrones does. The big guy.
Yeah. When,
they call
when
him the
you
man.
say that, when Yeah, you know it's funny. So I do strongman also, and that's my main sport. But I also do powerlifting. And for like those people who don't know what powerlifting is one rep max, a squat, bench press, and deadlift. You get a total, and whoever has the biggest total at the end of the day wins. So if you say you do a 300 kilogram squat, a 200 kilogram bench, a 300 kilogram deadlift, then that's 800 kilogram total. And you know some guy has a 900 kilogram total, and he beats me or whatever. And so like my last powerlifting meet that I did, I was like the biggest guy there. Powerlifting isn't a super huge sport either. Again, it's very similar to strongman as a big sport. And so I was the biggest guy there, and a lot of the guys are like, "Oh my God, you're so big, blah 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 blah. Like, what are you gonna open at? What are you gonna do?" And then like I told them like, "Yeah, I'm doing this for fun, but I'm a strongman competitor." And they're like, "Oh, you're like the mountain." It's like what everyone says. Like, oh, and they just called me. They called me the Mountain Junior for the rest of the day. They're like, "You're like the mountain, but 4 inches shorter." Like I'm like, yeah. I'm not fucking 6'9" and 400 pounds, or whatever, how much he weighs now, So, yeah, it was like everyone knows who the mountain is. Like he has done a lot for the sport, and good for him. The guy deserves every bit of success that he's had, both in in strongman and in acting and all that. But that's probably the mountain and CrossFit has probably done the most for strongman gaining popularity in the last few years than anyone else has, to be honest. And then Eddie Hall too, because Eddie Hall is such a personality, and him winning World's Strongest Man last year was pretty huge. Because Eddie Hall is, if you've seen the documentary on Netflix, like the guy started out as like an English champion swimmer when he was a kid. So he was a skinny little dude that worked his way up to being the biggest, strongest man on earth, So, and he's got the personality. Like strongman's probably going to need to have a few more personalities if you want to make it like a big popular production. Eddie Hall is he's like the Conor McGregor of strongman. Like he kind of loves to hate him, so he was good for the sport.
So, how many calories are you consuming a day, and what's your nutrition like to maintain, obviously, your strength and that? Because I'm on a calorie deficit at the moment, and I tried lifting heavy the other day, and literally I just burnt out. Shit.
It's hard, yeah. I've done it before. Last year, I was actually in a calorie deficit because I was trying to lose some weight. I wanted to do a powerlifting meet and go down a weight class, and it didn't work out for me, unfortunately. Some life things got in the way. But my calorie deficit is like 3,200 calories for a day is a deficit for me, whereas for most people that's a surplus,
Yeah.
So I would say when I'm right now, I don't track my calories like I used to, but if I had to put a rough estimate on it, I'd say I probably eat about 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day.
Wow.
Maybe it's not. I know guys who eat a lot more, so to me it's like I take that 1,000. I'm like that's not that bad. I could probably do more. I work in the kitchen for a living. Like I'm a cook. So people think like, oh, you're a cook, you're eating all the time. It's like, no, I'm cooking all the time. I'm not eating. I'm busy as hell. So I for the most part, eat like 3 spare meals a day, and they're usually just pretty big meals. And then in between, I might snack here or there. So like for breakfast, I might have like some eggs, some potatoes, maybe some sausage. Get a lot of my calories from and that is just like a lot of the calories come from like the fat of the meat or whatever. I eat a lot of red meat. I feel like personally, like red meat, I feel a lot stronger. Red meat's a lot more nutrient dense than like white meat chicken is. And I'm sick of chicken. So I've been eating chicken my whole life. My mom, I'm the biggest person in my family by far. Like no one in my family is this size. Like I was born in Honduras, and we're all like a bunch of small little Hispanic people. My mom is like 130 pounds soaking wet. My brother is like a long distance runner who's like 170 pounds soaking wet. So like I'm like the genetic anomaly. So we grew up like my mom was trying to get us to like eat clean and eat healthy, and it was like chicken, rice, vegetables. And then she would always be like, "You eat too much. You eat too much." And I'm like, "Mom, like I'm 6'4" and I'm 16. Like, what do you mean I eat too much? Like I can't keep up. Like I'm sorry, I'm not you. Like I'm not gonna 5'6" Hispanic woman, So like yeah, I eat a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of rice. Rice is like my go-to starch. It's just quick and easy, and you can get a lot of it. I don't do a lot of supplementation because I'm not a big fan of. I feel like the supplement industry has really kind of just gotten oversaturated with a lot of people who are just selling you a protein flavored chocolate milkshake.
Yeah.
The only supplements that I do take that I've ever actually noticed makes a noticeable difference in my training and how I recover is creatine. So I do take creatine every day. It's like that shake you saw me drinking earlier. That was just orange juice and creatine. So other than that, man, like occasionally I do a protein shake, like if I need to do something quick and I'm in a hurry. But I get almost all my nutrition from the food I eat, which is really a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of beef, occasionally some ground bison. I eat a lot of pork. So I'm Hispanic, and Hispanics love pork. Like you can't take pork out of my diet; it's never gonna happen. And a lot of rice, you know, and yeah, and potatoes and stuff like that. So like real hearty foods. And you know, I have to be able to put in some calories because like like my workouts are like minimum 3 hours long. You know, so it's not like I can just get in and out of the gym in 45 minutes. Like with strongman, like half the time it's just setting up the implements, setting up the equipment. You know, you gotta drag a whole bunch of plates outside, drag your farmer's handles outside, stack them up, keep adding weight. You know, a lot of like my training partners are, you know, almost all my training partners are smaller than me, and one of them, his name is Buck. He always gives me crap. He's like, man, it always takes you so long. He's like, I'm always done before you get started. I'm like, yeah, well, it takes me twice as long to warm up, so I'm doing twice as much weight as you. Like, it's just from the sheer time of just walking the equipment over, it takes longer, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like be able to put down some calories. I know guys who eat a lot more than I do, and I know guys who eat less than I do, and it's so successful. That's just what works for me. Right now, I'm actually the heaviest I've ever been. I'm hovering right around 330 pounds to 150 kilos.
Yeah,
so
wow.
I'm pretty big. When I started the sport, I weighed 275, which is 125 kilos. So I've put on 25 kilos in the last 4 years, you know. So, but it's been slow. It's been gradual. It's not like I just like started eating a bunch of pasta and got fat. So I could probably do a little bit more cardio. I do like to do a lot of conditioning because with strongman, it's not just a strength sport. Like there's a fair amount of conditioning involved. You know, because you're not just like lifting weights, but a lot of times you're running with weights. You're running with kegs and sandbags and odd objects and implements. You know, so you gotta have some conditioning. You know, sometimes you'll walk up to an amateur show and you'll see the biggest, baddest guy out there. And you're like, he's not gonna win. Like he's big. He'll do well on the static event, but as soon as the moving event comes around, he's gonna gas out and get tired. So sometimes it's not even the biggest guy that wins. You know. So yeah.
But the thing is, like, even when they're like, when you're deadlifting cars for reps, like in a period of time or whatever, like, or just deadlifting cars for reps, like, you're still going to eventually be tapping into that sort of cardiovascular side as well as obviously using your strength.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
I challenge anyone to like lift extremely heavy for reps and then tell me they're not out of breath after, because you are.
Right. You know, and that's it's funny you mentioned that because it's like there's like here in the amateur level, like there's a lot of powerlifters that sometimes cross over to try strongman, and it's like in powerlifting you only have to do one rep, so it's like everyone's like, oh my god, that powerlifter, he's got a 250 kilogram bench press, he's gonna do awesome, and it's like he'll do awesome for 2 reps and then he'll gas out, and the guy who's used to it is gonna outlift him, even though he might not have the same amount of top end strength. It's the difference between a car that can go fast versus a car that can go long versus the car that can haul a house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, everyone's like, oh, you gotta have a good engine. I'm like, well, it depends on what your engine's for. Like, you got an engine that's trying to make it across the country. I've got an engine that's trying to pull down, for the haul trailer. So
what's your training like push pull days and things like that, or do you just go how you feel?
Not so much how I feel. Like I'm really big on having a plan, and I always have a plan. But for the most part, with strongman, no 2 contests are the same. Every contest is different. Now you'll see a lot of similarities. There's almost always some sort of overhead press. There's almost always some sort of deadlift. There's almost always some sort of moving event and some sort of loading event. Those are really like the 4 main aspects of strongman. It's like pushing, pulling, loading, and moving. So depending on what contest I'm training for, will be the strongman events that I'll train for that, and then you'll still see some generic, general gym lifts. Like, all of us squat, all of us do some sort of overhead pressing, most of us do some sort of bench pressing, all of us do deadlifts. But like, for example, say I'm 12 weeks out from a contest and I'm doing a car deadlift. So for the first 8 weeks of that press, I'll do regular bar deadlifts and I'll train the car deadlift maybe once a week. And then when I'm 4 weeks out from the contest, then I'll stop doing barbell deadlifts and I'll just train the car deadlift, getting ready, like more specific. So like the further away from a contest you are, the more general you train, just trying to get stronger in general, squats and presses and deadlifts and everything. And then the closer you get to a contest, typically the more focused it becomes. And you just like, if you're doing a contest that has 5 events, for me, like when I'm 4 weeks out, I just do those 5 events and nothing else. So right now, I'm kind of in an off-season mode. I'm trying to. So we have this thing that just started last year, and this is the second year they're doing it. It's called the International Strongman Game, and it's put on by the same people who put on World's Strongest Man, and it's an online qualifier system, kind of like the CrossFit game, and it was really successful last year. So the way it works is they have these 3 events online, and when they start the qualifiers September 1st, you record yourself doing it, you record yourself weighing the implement, and then you send it in online, and like the top 20 guys will get invited to the Strongman game. And it's like for the heavyweights, for us, if you win, I think top 3 or maybe first place, it's either first place or top 3 in the Strongman game, then you'll get invited to Giants Live. And Giants Live is a qualifier for World's Strongest Man. So there's like a qualification process for getting to the top. It's not just like you get invited. You can earn your way up there. So the events for that are a 5-rep max log clean and press. So you take a big metal log, clean it up your chest 1 time, and press it 5 times overhead. And the most amount of weight will win that event. So I'm trying to get better at my 5-rep max log. So I'm training log right now. It's a max deadlift from the floor. So I'm training a lot of deadlifts right now. And then it's a farmer's carry, which is the big handle you carry in your hands with weights.
Yeah.
And that one's 50 feet down and 50 feet back, but you have to turn around the cone. It's not like second down, turn around and come back. So that turn kills a lot of guys. So I'm training farmers right now. So normally if I was training for a contest, I'd probably be training somewhere between 5 and 6 events. But since this one's an online qualifier, it's only 3 events, I'm putting all my focus into those 3 events. So right now, my training looks like, I train 4 days a week. Day 1 is going to be squat day. I'll do some regular squats, some box squats, and just like trying to get my legs and lower body stronger. Day 2 is like an upper body day. It's mostly like overhead press. I'm doing a lot of incline press right now because incline press has a lot of carryovers to logs. Logs is really big and awkward, so you kind of have to lean back and incline it up a little bit. And then all kinds of like upper body accessory work. So like lat pull-ups and rows and stuff like that. So like strongman, you do a fair amount of bodybuilding. So you got to be pretty big and have like strong muscles and strong stabilizers to move some of this stuff. Day 3 is my deadlift day, and so I'll do deadlifting and anything that's kind of like I work my back a lot on deadlift day, so I'll do a lot of like rack pulls, regular deadlifts, maybe deficit speed work or like snatch grip deadlift, and then I'll do a lot of rowing work. And then day 4 is like my strongman event day. And you'll see a lot of guys do this. They'll train like regular gym lifts throughout the week, and then on the weekend, like Saturday or Sunday, they call it event day where they just train the strongman lift. And so for me, my event day is log, and then farmers, and then normally I would train stones. Probably would be my 3rd event. Most guys will do like 3 or 4 events on an event day, depending on how much time they got. But since right now there's no stone, I'm actually just like my 3rd event is usually like some sort of cardio. I'll do like sprint work or like pushing a sled or something like that. So that's what my training looks like right now. It changes depending on the contest. Some contests are easier to train for than others. Some have more events than others. So like when I was training for nationals, our events were a car deadlift, circus dumbbell press, which is a 1-arm press. We had to do a tire flip and drag medley. We had to do an arm over arm truck pull, and then we had stones. So I had 5 different events to train for on top of my regular gym list. So I kind of had to cycle it a little differently. So like for the most part for me, every training cycle looks different. And I kind of assess that whenever I sign up for a contest. I go, okay, this contest has these events, so here's how I'm going to train for that. And, I usually try not to train for a contest any longer than 12 weeks because I feel like guys get really burnt out real fast if they start training for longer than that, especially because the strongman lift can be pretty rough on your body too. So a lot of pounding on the joints, a lot of moving. So like for me, for the most part, whenever I'm in like off-season mode, I'll just stop doing strongman events altogether and just work on like powerlifting, bodybuilding. So I'll just try to work on like getting like my squat, my bench press, my deadlift, my overhead press up, and then working on like building different muscle groups and stuff. So and then I think that's a smarter way to do it. So far it's been successful for me because I've never been injured. And, it's not a lot of guys who can say that. Like,
Touch wood.
As far. Yeah. So it's worked for me. Everybody does.
What's your diet like before your competition? Do you load loads for energy, or so say 2 days before or a day before, week before? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for the most part, I don't change it a whole lot. Just because I'm kind of very much like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, I know a lot of guys who will change their diet the week of, and then like it'll mess their stomach up, or they just feel off. So I eat most of the same things. The only things I do different is the night before a contest, or pretty much the day before the contest, I'll carb load like crazy. I'll just eat a ton of carbs, and I'll like back off on the protein a little bit. Just because, like, for me, if I eat a lot of meat, especially if I eat a lot of red meat, like that heavy, like steak and all that, I feel like full and weighed down, and I don't like feeling that way before a contest. And then the morning of a contest, I'll actually do the opposite. I won't eat a lot of carbs because I see a lot of guys carb load like crazy in the morning, and then halfway through the competition, they crash. So, like, they do really good on the first two events, and then they get really tired all of a sudden. It's like, oh, it's because you ate a stack of pancakes at 6 in the morning, and now it's high noon, and it's hot, and you're tired and just used up all that sugar energy. So, for, like, the morning of, usually me and my team will get together, and I'll eat, like, potatoes, eggs, and sausage, and not even, like, a lot of potatoes, just a little bit. But then, like, the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is, like, during the contest, nutrition is real important. Especially, like, if I'm here in Florida, almost every strongman competition is outdoors. It's hot in Florida, dude. So, like, eating is important. You want to keep your energy up. But also, like, hydration is really important, So most of us will actually dilute, like, Gatorade, Pedialyte in a really big, like, gallon jug and sip that all day so we don't get dehydrated. So for the most part, like, during the day, I'll find something that's really easy for me to eat in between the events. And it's usually just snack stuff. And it'll be something like potato chips, which sounds like shit food, but if you think about it, it's carbs because it's potatoes, and it's salt, which is electrolyte. So it's actually pretty optimal for a competition. Or like some guys will eat like little candy bars, like those like little like fun size Snickers that like people like buy during Halloween time.
Yeah.
Like that's really good. That's really good for a strongman competition because you can eat one at a time, and you don't get like bloated or full eating a full meal, but it can help you keep your energy up because it's fat and carbs, so it works.
Do you have any rituals before you, compete? Do you have any like lucky boxers or anything like that?
Yeah. So I usually will have like certain music I'll listen to. Like I'll probably play like either I'm really like for me it's for the most part it's just like two things when it comes to like training and competing. It's either like old school like gangster rap or like really heavy metal. So depending on my mood in the day, I'll like play some music and kind of just like I want to get myself a little hyped up, but not too much because you don't want to like wear yourself out before you even get there, And then I almost always, me and my team will grab breakfast together. That's the thing that we really like to do is grab breakfast before the contest and kind of just like hang out, like get our minds right, and talk about strategy and talk about like, hey, how are you feeling today? Here's how we're gonna approach this event. How's this approach that event? Yada yada yada. And then yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I'm not like there is one thing I do like to do. So on YouTube, Rogue Fitness, who does make a lot of strongman equipment, they make all the equipment for CrossFit and stuff. They have videos of the last few years of the Arnold Strongman Classic, and there's like 2 videos that I love to watch that just get me super fired up every single time. And it's the circus dumbbell press from 2016. That video gets me fired up every time. And then this year's deadlift from the 2018 Arnold when the Mountain won that event. They're like minute and a half promo videos that Rogue put out promoting like the contest and their equipment. And it's very like hype, motivation type videos. Man, it fucking works. That shit gets me fired up, man. So I will watch those videos. And I'm like, it's the big dogs. It's the best. It's like if you're a basketball player and you're watching Michael Jordan highlights. I'm just doing the same thing, but just with strongman. You know what I mean? So
you're like on your way there. You put the video on, and you're like, oh my god, fuck yeah!
Fired up. Hey, say hi to my kid. He brought me his socks. He wants me to put his socks on for some reason.
Yo.
Sorry. So
I like his
give me
top.
a second. Say hi.
Has he got a bear lifting some weights on his t-shirt?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it says be strong or something. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, he's gonna be a little strong man. He's gonna be a bit power lifter. Like my old lady actually, she does strongman too. Well, she does strongman and she does musical theater. So like right now, she's actually at a play right now. She's got a role for, but whenever she's not doing a play, she actually competes in strongman too. So like when he was born, everyone was like, "Oh my God, his mom's a strongman, his dad's a strongman. He's gonna be a strongman too. He's gonna be a little power bear or whatever." And I'm like, watch, like between like her musicality and my strength, he's gonna be something that neither of us can help him with. He's gonna be like a plumber. And we're gonna be like, all right, man, like do it the best you can, you know. Here, let me see that. Come here. Yeah, come here. All right, fine. Take it. All right, figure it out. Go ahead, eat plastic. It'll be all right. But yeah, so that's, we're like waiting to see if he ends up being a strength athlete, you know, or if he's even an athlete at all. You know, we think he might be because I mean he's pretty big for a 2-year-old. You know, he just turned 2 last month, and he's already like 36 pounds, so like just over 15 kilos, you know, or like 16 kilos. I mean, he's pretty big for a baby. So, but I don't know. Maybe he won't be. You know, maybe he'll raise dogs or something. Maybe he'll be an engineer, an accountant, whatever. As long as he's happy.
That's what it's about, man. No, well, anyways, thank you for coming on, bro. Like, I really appreciate it. I've run out of topics to cover with you, but you've been thorough, absolutely smashed it. Good quality content in there as well.
Fun.
Yeah, I'll have you on again, man.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Let me know. I'll be more than happy to do this again, man. It's great.
Maybe me, you, and Jason or something can get on. We could talk films or something, and just have a laid back one.
Jason always, he always likes to talk about 2 things. We always talk MMA, you know, because that's how him and I met. Is he had that podcast he used to do, the MMA one, and then we're always talking like Marvel movies and like Star Wars and nerdy shit. Like I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan.
Me too.
Like probably like I got everything I do in life. Yeah, I have everything I do in life. It's like here's like my personalities ranked from 1 to 5. It's like Star Wars fan, father, athlete, worker. But like Star Wars fan is number 1. It's like way up here, like way above the other things. Like I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so I can talk about Star Wars. But we could just do a Star Wars podcast. I talk about that all day long.
Yeah, let's do that, man. I'm up for that. I'm well up for that. I've got a friend over here who'd like to get involved. I'll message Jason and we'll make that happen, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah, man, that would be great, man. That'd be a lot of fun. Let me know, man. I'm down.
Cool. The floor is yours anyways. 2 minutes to advertise yourself, your social media sites, and just your Instagram or whatever. It's all yours, man. Go.
Yeah, so if people want to find me, they can find me on, I probably use Instagram more than anything nowadays because it's just easier. It's El Toro Fuerte, but there's a dot in between each, so it's EL.TORO.FUERTE, El Toro Fuerte, so El.Toro Fuerte. Spanish, it means the strong bull. And then you can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Just search my name up. You can put this on the show notes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it. If you're listening to this podcast and you're in like the local Florida area, we're in our gym is in Vieira on the Space Coast. It's Recruit Strength, so you can find Recruit Strength on Facebook and Instagram. Just type in Recruit Strength and you'll see it on there, and they'll probably have videos and pictures of us lifting weights and whatnot. So that's pretty much it. If anyone's interested in strongman coaching, I offer coaching for the sport of strongman. I do remote coaching, so you could be here in Florida, you could be in California, you can be in England, where you're at, London, wherever, So if anyone's interested in the sport of strongman and coaching for the sport of strongman, just, hit me up. You can send me an email. My email address is njbsfla@gmail.com, or you can just send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. I'll respond. I'm always very responsive. So, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all the places you can find me.
Cool, man. Well, I'll put all the links in the description below anyways. That'll get you to send over. And as always, man, appreciate your time. We'll chat off camera for a second if you're cool with that. And
yeah, man, absolutely.
Yeah, just have a little recap on how we thought things went. And then hopefully things will go splendid, I hope. But yeah, no, cool. Appreciate your time, man, as always. Like, just to come and chat with me. Do you know what I mean? Because most people can't be bothered sometimes. They're just like, nah, I'm not down for it. So yeah,
I like listening to podcasts. It's like it's a thing when I'm at work. It's also a really good way for me to ignore my coworkers that I don't want to talk to. So it's all good. So yeah, I always wanted to do one of these. This is a lot of fun, man. It's really cool. I'll be more than happy to do it again.
I hope the JB podcast is in your playlist. I'm joking.
Yeah, definitely.
No. But yeah, man, no, appreciate it. All right, and cheers for coming on. We'll chat off camera. Sweet.
Definitely.